Oh, yeah.
Back again.
You know,
Naughty fans.
the fans just getting wild, you know?
This one's a little more fun and uplifting, though, than the other ones.
This one was cheeky and fun. I felt like it was hard for me to find a soccer one where people didn't die.
Because the game wasn't ruined.
All right. Thank you all for coming back to the Sports Experience Podcast. I'm Chris Quinn with my friend Dom DiTolla. We're just a couple of comics talking sports. And you know what? Today, we're talking soccer.
Yeah, we're back on the pitch, and we're in the midst again, as I've stated the last few times, of our Fans Behaving Badly series.
That's right.
And I wouldn't say that the fans, do they get out of control here? Yeah, but it's not necessarily violent. This is more of a riot out of happiness.
Well, this is different from all of our American ones so far, where the fans behaving badly have almost been like more riot of destruction, and this was more of like a riot of victory. Because
this is like fun vandalism. This is like
there's
excitement.
so much stuff in the background, you know, steeped in their history. Yeah, where when Scotland beats England, it's got to mean a little bit more than
Yeah, I mean, you guys remember, back in the Middle Ages when Mel Gibson saved Scotland for a while against the English. I mean, this was their freedom yelling moment where they're lifting up their kilts and showing them a fruit bowl.
So just a huge overview on what soccer was. It came out of England, Scotland area, and they actually had two different styles of play. So England's being more nourished, so being like, it was like a gentleman's game. So they were like men that were not malnourished, essentially. So they were like the first athletes. So they were very much like
a bunch of foppish dandy Nancy Pantses.
Well, they were very much like almost 6 foot, which was rare for that time, like had muscle, and they were the style of game was a lot rougher, and there was a point where it separated and one became like rugby and the other kind of stayed into soccer. But in Scotland, where they were a bit smaller and a bit more reliant on passing, that's where the passing game really became.
Oh, that's interesting. That's really cool.
And when they started to mix and play each other, there was this kind of like
there's a rivalry, there's a fucking clash of styles, which you always like to see.
And when you see the overlap, that's where you see kind of what soccer becomes, is this professional athlete that has these that has these skills, you know what I mean? And that's the thing, that because everybody gives like England the thing of inventing soccer, but in truth, like Scotland really invented the way shit gets played,
which is awesome. So I think a Scottish guy invented the TV.
Oh, that's great.
I don't know. I could be wrong. Who knows?
You know what? We're gonna back it. We're gonna go with it.
We're just gonna throw out some fake news, but no.
So leading up to this game, and that's why these fans behaving badly, there has to be something leading up that gets people.
They're riled up,
Well, it's almost like a different set of fans. So they used to have these tourneys. They called it the
British Home Championship.
So it was England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland.
How many countries you got in this country?
That's it. That's all that can play. And they would do these little tourneys on the off seasons of the World Cup or the Euros, and it would help their international teams like gel together a little more.
Exactly, yeah, and it's just a good kind of friendly way of playing each other. But there's also that like I want to kick my brother's ass type of deal.
That everybody wants to beat England.
Yeah, because England's king shit, and then your little brothers in Northern Ireland, Wales, and Scotland are like, hey, come with the king, let's not miss, guys.
So leading up to this, England does not make the 78 World Cup in Argentina. Yeah. Scotland does make the 78 World Cup in Argentina.
And Wales had a strong team too.
Wales actually beat England in this little, because they do like a round robin where everybody kind of plays everybody, and then we see who's the winner.
The most points. Yeah.
So this is a huge downswing in England's. It's almost like when the United States loses to Canada, and we're like, whoa, what's happening?
Not hockey either.
And we own Canada. No, I'm saying in soccer. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I know,
Canada,
I know.
I know. But that's the thing, is like, in this game, Scotland has the chance to win this tourney for the first time
in like 60 years.
They're going, in 60 years, because they had like different. Yeah. But so they're going to Wembley, and I think for the first time they were going to be outnumbering or close to outnumbering the English fans.
That has to be so awesome to go into an opposing team's stadium as a fan and just watch them fucking lay waste to them.
Well, they said because Wembley's always been a huge stadium. They've done a bunch of like revamps on it over the years, but I think in this time it held around 100,000.
Yeah.
So
that's where they do all the NFL games there.
Yeah.
They play in England.
Yep. I think now it holds over 100,000, but for a time because they just do different constructions on it all the time. Yeah. So in this one, it held about 100,000, and they were unsure as to how many Scots. But if you see any of the highlights, it has to be majority Scottish people.
Well, and they're probably so excited because they're like, hey, we tied Wales and we beat Northern Ireland. If we win this game, we win the whole shebang-a-bang. Grab your shit. Let's go from Edinburgh and fucking Glasgow down to London and play this game and watch them actually win.
And that was the thing, was England didn't have a chance to win. England didn't have a chance to win the tourney, and they weren't going to Argentina.
Yeah.
So like there was almost like this, like, why are we going to go watch our international team because they're doing so bad?
And the fans aren't looking to get violent or angry, though. They're just looking to get excited, and that joy and enthusiasm is in them, which kind of cooks up all this excitement that makes them want to be like, I'm taking out all my pent-up happiness.
Well, okay, so now let's get right into the game. So it happens June 4th, 77 in Wembley in London.
Yeah.
That's their giant stadium. And one of the best things, so I don't know if anybody knows the way soccer teams come out. They come out of like a little dressing room, and then they come out of this tunnel together next to each other.
Yeah.
And Mick Mills had one of the best quotes. So they're in the tunnel side by side, and he says, obviously loud enough to kind of be talking shit, but he goes, I can smell the whiskey from here.
Oh, that is awesome. Oh,
essentially saying to everybody that's there, like, hey, this is a Scottish crowd in our Wembley stadium. And the Scottish guy said, we couldn't tell if he was talking shit because it made us so happy. Like, yeah, this is a Scottish crowd. Yep. You could smell the whiskey from here.
Just a bunch of liquored up groundskeeper willies ready to go. Grease me up, woman.
So they're greasing each other up in the tunnel.
Yeah, which is what soccer players do. No, I'm just joking. But no, so they're coming out of the tunnel, and it's just this raucous pro-Scottish crowd.
Yes.
Like,
if anybody had any doubts before that, it was obvious when they hit the field, like, oh, this is a pro-Scottish crowd. And if you want to go check it out,
it's like a 12th man in football.
Fucking hairstyles in this era.
God, dude.
And we've talked about it before with the Dutch. This era of soccer has hairstyles. It's almost comparable to hockey hairstyles,
like with the mullets and shit.
Oh, yeah, they're beautiful.
They're just so ridiculous. No one would be caught dead wearing them now, but it's just like men of their time.
Men of their time, and they're beautiful, fucking feathered,
flowing locks. They all look like Farrah fucking Fawcett out there.
Talk about it for weeks. I'm just saying. So the game is very back and forth. England actually has a good team. Scotland is not dominating like some people kind of thought they were going to go out and do.
But they go up 2-0, right?
Well, so this is the thing, was early on, England had 2 chances that were really good.
Yeah.
And then there's like these instances that happen, like the ball gets cleared out of England's box to the side, and the England guy, instead of heading it or like chesting it down, because there was a Scottish guy on his back, literally just like punches it out of the air. And so they give him a handball outside of the box, and it's a free kick, and he swings it in, and McQueen has a great header to put it in. And actually,
wasn't he the leading scorer? No,
it was
the guy who scored the second one. Yeah,
Dalglish,
yeah.
But McQueen actually scored against Northern Ireland, I think, and he was a defender, which he was such a, in that era, you could tell like that Scottish team fucking worked together.
All the goals in that tournament were scored by just those 2 guys for Scotland. I had read, which is pretty incredible.
So great header from that one, and then that was in the 42nd minute, and then in the 60th minute, Dalglish essentially like he shot it and it ricocheted back and he got his own rebound and buried it.
That's when you know you're living right. It's your day.
Well, that was the thing, was after they had scored that second goal, you could tell the English team was almost kind of like, all right, this is kind of, and the Scottish fans were going,
they're ready to rush the field. Like when your team like wins a conference championship or they beat like a super high ranked team, you're going to want to run on that field and just go nuts.
Yeah, it was very much, to equate it to American sports, is very much like if you're in a college football and your team beats like a top 5 school that nobody ever thinks they're going to beat.
Yeah.
So you're up 2-0, and then this is what I mean, where like stuff has to happen to make these events kind of boil over
and like special.
And at the end, England gets a penalty, which was righteous, and they bury it, and it makes the game tense right at the end.
Exactly.
So it makes it like 2-1.
It's 80 something minute.
Yep.
Right?
I think it was 87th minute. It's such a thing where it makes this ending meaningful. So I feel like if they didn't fucking score that penalty,
it would have been coasting.
Everybody on the Scottish fans would have been like, "Oh, okay, we won."
And they might have rushed the field before.
Well, they might have rushed it, but I mean, I don't think they would have rushed it and had that same outpour.
No, I mean the outpour is what kind of leads to the craziness.
Well, as soon as the whistle blows, it is chaos.
The day Wembley turned tartan. That's exactly what happened.
Oh man, that's a great one. And that's what straight up. So like, it's different from what we see in American sports when they storm it. They almost storm it and go like 4 players and
to like congratulate, not to like beat up on them or anything, but just like, I want to touch greatness.
Yes.
You know?
And you see them kind of storming players and like gathering around them, and the players kind of trying to get off, and they play it really cool. And I feel like athletes in this era play it really cool. Like, yes.
Yeah, because they're not in any danger. They're just like, don't hurt me. You're cool. Like, whatever. And it said, I had read in the Daily Mail, there were 98,103 fans there.
Yes.
And about 2/3 were Scottish, which means that's a lot of people.
Well, that's the thing,
field.
that they had no idea how many, and then they were talking about towards the end of the game when how many people came onto the field and how many sections of stands were completely empty.
Yeah.
So it was obvious that there was like English fans leaving, but as soon as the game ended and there was just such a rush, they were like, "Oh, holy shit!" Like, a ton of this audience was Scottish, which I have to say, you will never see this again. You will never see like Wembley being like English fans being outdrawn at Wembley. So like, it was such a fucking event.
People were ripping grass out of the field. Like at a certain point, police and security were like, we can't come on the field. You're probably safer if you come on the field than remain in the stands.
One of the best quotes was this Scottish guy was like, I went with my parents. I was staying in the stands. And the security guard was just like, you guys better come onto the field. And like in such a British way, it was just like, what are we doing here? Like, why don't you guys celebrate? And that was something that I thought was so, like, they had this realization of like, let's let these Scottish guys like go ape shit for a while
because they weren't doing anything. That's the big main thing compared to the other ones. They weren't doing anything wrong.
No, they were ripping up the field, and they ended up
taking down the crossbar,
breaking the crossbar. But it was all in. You can tell it was, and I hate to say it, but it's
Torrance was the guy that did it.
It was such a European thing to be like, yeah, but they're having drunk, cheeky shenanigan fun. It's not the evil shenanigans.
Evil shenanigans.
And that's the thing that I love in this era. And I'm going to talk about it later, how it kind of goes into scary hooliganism.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know why I fuck up on my words so much. But this was what was the guy's name? Alec
Torrance.
Alec Torrance.
He said he was in his Bay City roller days. So Saturday night, everybody.
Well, they asked
platform shoes, a tartan shirt, and just fucking 70s.
It was like 2005, and they asked him if he regretted it now, getting onto the field and like breaking it. And he goes, the only thing I regret is the lapels and the platform shoes. And it was just like, because you see them all out there looking a little ridiculous. And that was something that...
wardrobe of their time.
Well, that was something that the fans that did this had... even like 30, 40 years down the road, they were like, regrets. That was one of the funnest times, and you could see pictures of a young Rod Stewart,
big
partying
soccer fan,
so hard with everybody.
Discomania.
Oh yeah, and that was the thing, was he was not a small fan.
No, he's a huge soccer fan.
Well, no, I mean, not a fan. He wasn't a small star at that time.
No,
like people
he's a big
saw
star,
him
yeah.
and like were like, "Fuck yeah, Rod Stewart!"
Rod Stewart's gonna party with me. He even sent, when Alec Torrance died, he sent flowers to his funeral.
Yep.
Because like that moment for Scots, as far as like soccer fans, that's like their fucking greatest moment. That's the greatest moment for the fans.
Well, to put it in perspective, they hadn't beaten England in a friendly or any competition in a decade. Before that, I think it was something like 25 years.
And
so
they had to be on top of the world.
And this was the thing, was if you look at when soccer first started to become popular, if you looked at their two different styles, you would have picked Scotland to be the bigger, to be the bigger soccering nation, but England essentially adopted their style. And to be honest, almost everybody in Europe adopted the Scottish style of passing.
Total football.
And that's when, this is pre that. And then we have the Argentina Brazil style of individual,
Stars,
skill.
yeah.
Well, the skill moves, and then that kind of comes together in total football. Check out that episode.
Johan Cruyff. But
Johan Cruyff.
There's a great story about one of Scotland's later managers, Gordon Graham,
Yep.
who was with his wife after his honeymoon and one of his friends, and that was one of the moments where they just stayed in the section, and the cops are like, "Go on the field,
Yep.
like just party." I mean, you're behaving badly by ripping the turf out, but it's cheeky, it's fun. It's an amazing moment for that country's sport.
That's the thing that I feel like everybody was acknowledging, was like, this, you guys can like have some fun with this because we know what it means.
Yeah, exactly. And while, technically you probably shouldn't having that many people congregating at once and partying, there wasn't any malice. There wasn't a 10-cent beer night vibe. There wasn't disco demolition vibes. It was all fucking awesome.
Now, saying that, let's get into what happens in the coming years, because
Jesus.
a lot of people felt like
This is what spawned it.
This is an event that happened that let people know, like, hey, they can't really keep us fans under control if we all kind of get together.
Yeah.
Because in the following years, the hooliganism in England, Scotland, in this tournament especially, really exploded. And so much so that they ended up canceling the tournament in '84 and have not revisited it, because the hooliganism was getting so bad during all of these games that it was just like, all right,
My
we need
team
to back
lost.
off.
I'm going to stab you.
Well, in the 80s, that's when it was flat out the worst. And if you think of like how bad it was, they literally were like, we're not going to have this British Isle tourney anymore because literally too many people are getting hurt.
I'm going to blame Margaret Thatcher for that one, just because it's easy.
Us here at the Sports Experience Podcast are blaming Margaret Thatcher for that. But that's the thing that people were saying, was like, in the span of like 2 or 3 years,
sucks, dude.
In the span of 2 or 3 years, disco dies in America and hooliganism just absolutely explodes. And it's this change in the 80s. That's really what it is. It's this 70s to 80s change where you won't see this happen ever again on a soccer field, where it is just like pure fun, where the security isn't like...
They're not there to crack skulls. They're just like, well, these people aren't hurting anybody. But then it's like Britain in the 80s, all that socio-political shit. It's like, oh, God, what have we created?
It's just a different world.
Yeah, different
And
world.
that's why I love these because they're just like little pieces in time where like shit explodes from it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? It was fans behaving badly. That's what it is. Thank you.